Today we're going to make a favorite fast and easy plant-based recipe. These are P.F. Chang's Copycat lettuce wraps. And we'll get started. Got my pan here and I'm gonna start heating the pan. I want to get the pan nice and hot before I put in the tofu. That's gonna be the first thing. So this is some extra firm tofu. Typically you press tofu. I don't usually feel like I have to press extra firm very much because it doesn't hold a lot of moisture. So I just folded it up in a dish towel and we're ready to go. Now the recipe calls for oil. It tells you to put a little bit of oil in the pan. I try to cook oil-free when possible. I'm not 100% strict on that. And one of the exceptions I'll make is there is a little sesame oil in the sauce, but sesame oil adds such a pop of flavor. So the pan should be pretty heated up now. So I'm going to start by just crumbling the tofu into the pan. Now we want it to brown a little bit, and we want some of the moisture to cook off. And so just crumble it the best you can. And if you get bigger pieces in there, it's all right. They'll crumble up as we go. With the spatula. Oh, and I should add, this recipe, I will provide a link to the recipe. This is one of my favorites online. It's Well Plated is the name of the website where I found it. And, but I've doubled the recipe because this is, I'm not kidding when I say this is a huge favorite. So I always double it and we always gobble it up anyway. I like to have some leftovers and that I have to double the recipe to get that. But tofu is so rich in protein, and soy is so good for you in so many ways. So I love it when I can use tofu. Some of our other videos will feature some other soy-based products that I love that are super convenient as well. Tofu is still minimally processed, even though it's a little more processed than some other soy products that we use, but still minimally processed enough to be a whole food, to qualify as a whole food. So while that is browning up a little bit, we'll get to the mushrooms. So these are, since they're freeze dried, they're all the same nutrients as fresh. And this is, we're at the bottom of the can here. I wanted to show you, this is the last of the can. So these pieces are a little smaller. In a minute I'll show you another open can, but these pieces are a little smaller now that we're at the bottom. So I don't really need to crumble those up, but there are some that are larger. And one of the benefits of using freeze-dried food in your cooking, you don't have to chop because it's all chopped for you, but if you do have larger pieces, you just crumble them up with your fingers. So typically this recipe calls, when it's not double, calls for 8 ounces of mushrooms sliced. So 8 ounces is approximately 2 cups if you were to measure that out from the grocery store. So we'll be using, we'll actually be using 4 cups of the mushrooms. And I'm just gonna put them in this bowl so you can see what it's like. Usually I'd put it right in the pan. So here's the last of this can. And then I'm gonna open up this can. And another fun fact about the freeze-dried fruits and vegetables and mushrooms is that this can is a couple of years old. I bought this a couple of years ago at 2 years ago's price, and that's one of the benefits of freeze-dried food. It does not spoil on you. It has a 25-year shelf life, actually, sealed in the can, and a year after you open it. And then you can put an investment in the food right now and use it 10 years later. I just used 10-year-old potatoes a few days ago. And so you'll be using food at 10 years ago, the price at 10 years ago. So that's one of the benefits of freeze-dried food. It's quite an inflation fighter. So I am going to open this new can. Let's see what that looks like. The mushrooms I buy by the case because this is a huge staple for plant-based eating for us. It doesn't have to be if you're not a mushroom fan, but for us it is. And they never go bad on you. Go ahead and look at that. This is what a freshly opened can looks like. And they will never go slimy. They're already cleaned for me. They're perfect. So I'll get the rest of the mushrooms that I need. Let me just stir our tofu a little bit. Still has some moisture in there. Now, one thing about using the freeze-dried mushrooms particularly really pull the moisture in. Freeze-dried mushrooms do. So when you put them on a pizza or something, you don't usually have to refresh them or reconstitute them. Obviously in this dish, because the tofu has plenty of moisture, probably because I didn't press it like I should have, we're just going to put the mushrooms in just right on top of that without reconstituting them. And they will, oh, look how pretty those are. I love those. And they smell good. They smell like mushrooms. They're just, yum. So, but they will pull in the moisture from the tofu, which actually, in my opinion, makes the recipe even better because it's not too sloshy, if that makes sense. So there is our 4 cups of mushrooms, and you know, I'll crumble them up a little, but I don't mind big mushroom pieces. So we're gonna go ahead and pour those mushrooms in. And then we're gonna let these simmer. This will be nice because the mushrooms are gonna pull in the excess moisture. And so things should start browning up a little bit here. Even if it doesn't brown, that's okay. It's nice to know we didn't have to use the oil, and it's still gonna taste amazing. The other ingredients we'll be adding, we'll be using some garlic, and I just like the minced garlic, the kind that you buy in the jar. I'm telling you, everything I cook is shortcuts because if it weren't, I wouldn't do it. And I need to have my shortcuts so that I can stick to the way of eating that is so important to me. So I use the minced garlic, and then this is fresh grated ginger. This is, the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of each. Of course, I've doubled it. And a little trick about ginger that you probably already know, but I buy a fresh ginger root, and then I keep it in the freezer, and then just whenever I need it, I pull it out and I grate it frozen on the small side of my grater. So kind of a trick because, as you know, fresh ginger is just like a little extra something something. It just it's good. So when you want fresh ginger but you're lazy like me, that makes it a little bit easier. Otherwise I would probably just buy that in the jar as well. So, oh, this is browning up nice. I didn't have to use the water. That's something that people don't realize and understand, is that you don't actually need oil to saute, even with vegetables. You just, if you have to, you can pour in just a little bit of water, or you can use vegetable broths, or even, like I'm partial to a Thrive vegetarian bouillon that I make a broth with, that if I'm making a dish that has a flavor like that, then I'll use those vegetarian bouillons. As you can see, the mushrooms now look like, like normal mushrooms cooked. They pulled that moisture in. You can see the pan is nice and dry. Also, any large pieces of tofu, as I said, have broken up. So another ingredient is going to be water chestnuts. So I just just get them in the little can and drain them, and you want to chop them. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in, and you'll hear a little bit of a sizzle there. And those add a really satisfying crunch, which I absolutely love. Oh, I like how this is browning up. Okay, so then I'll put in these spices. Here's our ginger and our garlic. You can imagine how good this smells right now. And then we're gonna put in just a little bit of red pepper flakes. So this is seriously it, just a half teaspoon. This is actually a teaspoon because it's double, but we just want it, for me anyway, I don't like too much spice, but a little bit of spice brings out the other flavors. So there's that. And then we have the green onions. We're only going to use half of these in the actual pan. We'll save the rest for garnish. And green onions are, I love them. They are, in my mind, the sparkle of almost every dish that they are in. So, all right, this is absolute perfection right now. Everything is hot. The colors have had, or the flavors have had a chance to blend. And then we will add the sauce. So the sauce is 4 ingredients. This is soy sauce and rice vinegar. Rice vinegar is a really important flavor component. And hoisin sauce. And then, as I said, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. Just because Asian dishes, I think when they have that sesame oil flavor in them, I think it just gives them a little extra pop. So I'm not too worried about such a small amount in such a large dish. So we will pour this in. So rich and brown. Absolutely love this. And then you just want to stir it until the sauce, I'm going to switch to a spoon for easier distribution, until the sauce bubbles and is hot, and it will thicken just a bit once it's in. Oh, this smells so good. Oh my gosh. I am hungry, so that's part of the appeal. Very excited to sample this dish when it is done. So we'll let that sizzle for just a minute. Okay, so now we're going to plate it. So you can use different kinds of lettuce. Usually bib and butter lettuce are fun because you can make the little nest and it has a little cup. I'm going to use romaine. This is another benefit of this recipe. You're always trying to get greens in as a plant-based eater because greens are the stuff of life. So every chance you can get to have a yummy way to eat greens is welcome. So I'm going to use romaine leaves, and you can put the filling in the leaf and roll it up. I'm not good at this, by the way. As I said, I'm a lazy cook, not a chef. So you can roll it up. Oh, well, there you go. You can see how that would work with a larger leaf. But what we typically tend to do is just eat it like a taco. So we just do that. Everyone dishes up their own. They use their own filling. Oh, I forgot. We also can garnish with a few green onions. And that's what it looks like. And it smells so good. Thanks for joining us.